Hey, I thought it might be cool for you guys to be able to just follow along as I do some baits and kind of see the whole process. So I've got 3 baits that are in this one area, and I'm gonna just go ahead and film everything, checking the baits, pulling the card on the camera, and everything that I'm doing with these baits. And yeah, so just follow along on these 3 baits and you'll see what the first couple hours of my day is like today. Beat down here. Been getting a lot of activity. Alright, this one's getting Jelly Rancher. Well, you can see that it's pretty stomped down right here. This bait's been hit. I actually put 2 more buckets in it. It was actually about half full, so it's been hit light. But this one's kind of in a low area down here, and it takes some time to get it going. But once it goes, like last year, it took quite a few days to get it going, and then when it went, there was 7 or 8 bears on here. So we'll give it some more fresh scent. We're using Jelly Rancher. All right, camera's there, bait's here. Stand is 12 yards away, a little closer than what I would like, and that stand has to be turned. I had one of my guides that
put up a lot of stands for me that consistently put them up for left-handers. So I think we're going to turn this one about a quarter of a turn. All right, on to number 3. Holy smokes, it is absolutely pounded. Jeez. And it's in a low spot, which I don't really like to do. I don't like to put baits in low spots to start with. That's where you see that orange ribbon, that's where the stand is going to be. I don't like to put baits in low spots because the scent tends to pool and it's harder for the bears to find the baits. It takes a while. But I just fell in love with this spot and I'm like, well, it's right on a game trail. I mean, you can see the trail and you know, maybe I'll get lucky putting it down in this mossy area because this is a great place to have a bait. And I did get lucky because it is absolutely being pounded. I guess we'll find out what the trail camera shows. Well, there's a little bit of bait still in there, but not much. All right, let's get this baited up. All right, I actually walked back to the wheeler for another bucket. It's the last bucket I have with me, but it's actually honey roasted cashews. It's not my normal mix, but I'm gonna add it. All right, so that thing's got about 6 buckets in it. Now spray down these trails where the bears are coming in here. Oh my gosh, the trail camera was not turned on. Zero pictures. Well, that is certainly frustrating. Well, that's the 3 baits. I still got a few more to do, but I thought you'd be interested in these 3 that are in this general area, and that's kind of what it looks like. A little mishap at the end there with the camera that wasn't turned on. That's super frustrating, but overall, at least these 3 baits are getting hit. It is starting kind of slow this year, but I think it'll pick up over the next few days. And the mosquitoes have made their presence known. We've had a couple days with on and off rains here now, and they're, yeah, here they come. All right, off to the next one. Well, it is a beautiful evening here, and I would actually rather be out there on that lake, but I'm downloading video and charging batteries, so I don't have time to do any fishing right now. But I wanted to bring you up to speed here. I think it is the 6th day that we've been baiting, and things are going pretty well, and I just wanted to share some interesting things with you. 21 of 24 baits have been hit. We still have 3 that have not been hit, and all 3 of those have been pretty good baits in the past, so I'm expecting them to go. But it's actually starting pretty slow this year. You know, I know that some of the natural foods are down, but it's not as bad as me and a lot of people thought. There seems to be quite a bit of natural foods out there. I found a huge blueberry patch today. I wish I would have had time to stop and pick a couple cups of them and put them in some pancakes or something, but I'm noticing that the bears have pretty well cleaned up all the choke cherries. All the choke cherry trees that I saw earlier that had cherries on them are now bare of choke cherries, and they just bite them and strip them right down. All the bear scat that I'm seeing when the new bears come on the baits, the scat is just full of choke cherry pits. So that's their primary thing that they're eating. As you can see in this quick clip right here, there's also some blueberries in this one. That is the biggest pile of bear scat I've ever seen in my life. There's 5 pounds of bear poop right there. This one here has, that one's pretty big too. That one's found some blueberries. That is literally the biggest pile of bear poop I have ever seen in my life. That thing must have squeezed off like 5 pounds. I'm not kidding you. That's a big pile of bear poop, and that bear is an absolute super tanker. I do not have any daylight pictures of that bear yet, but he is a big one, and we'll see if somebody gets a crack at him. He just found the bait, I think yesterday, and so we'll see when I get up there to check that one again if we got any daylight pictures of that big one. But a lot of times those really big, really old bears, they just don't come during the daylight, so we'll see how that goes. I have lost my traditional 25 pounds that I always lose in the summer. I've already lost that. I had to pull my belt in a notch, and boy, I sure wish I wouldn't gain it all back in the winter every single year, but that's the way it works. Some of you guys asked about that metal thing that was in my tire. That thing ruined a $350 tire, and I asked them to pull it out for me, and this is what was in my tire. I hope that's real silver. I'm going to find out, but yeah. So fortunately I bought the Road Hazard with those tires, so it only cost me 50 bucks. But I got a new tire, and it cost me a lot of headache and driving around. But anyway, that was what was in the tire. The other thing on my list here, the mosquitoes have found their footing, I guess. You know, we had a couple of days of rain over the weekend, and the mosquitoes are starting to make themselves known. So we have a few baits that have not been hit, as I mentioned, and some that are pretty slow. And I went back and gold rushed some of the ones that haven't been hit again, so that should help them take off. I gave them 4 or 5 days and then hit them with gold rush again. The rain really did play havoc with our scents and smells and knocking the smell of the bait and the lures and everything down. So bad timing on the rain, but that's okay. We'll get things going. They're starting to move. We got quite a few baits now that are just really hopping, and the bears are just pounding them day and night. And you've heard me say this before, that a lot of times when these bears first find the baits, they just keep coming back every 6 to 8 hours, and that's kind of where we're at on most of these baits right now, where we got bears coming day and night and all the time, and there's just almost always a bear or two at the baits right now, the ones that are going good. And so we've been baiting pretty light. We haven't been really pouring it to them, but you know, we're trying to just keep a little bit in front of them, so when they come, they get rewarded with something good to eat. And then next week we're just going to be really filling up the barrels. And yeah, it costs a lot of money. You know, I think these buckets are $15 a piece, and we're putting out, you know, 40, plus a day, so it really adds up. But that's what you got to do to keep the bears at the baits, and so they keep coming back. And then when the hunters get here, they got a really good chance of having a nice bear in front of them, and that's what we're all about. That's why we do what we do here. So we had a really strange situation with one of the baits where someone came in. This is it's this county land, and it's a huge block of county land back in there, several square miles of county land, and they came in and put rocks beside the gate, so you can't get a side-by-side through. Now we can just barely get a four-wheeler through it. I measured it, stepped it off. It looks like we can get a four-wheeler through. But there's a lot of people that hunt back in there. There's people that deer hunt back in there. We got a bear bait. It's 2 miles in there. It's way back there. And it's a really good bait. That's where Jake shot his bear last year. And now I can't get to it with a side-by-side. So tomorrow I'm going to go in there with a couple of four-wheelers, and we're just going to have to pull that bait. We're going to bring the ladder stand out, the camera, the barrel, and everything, and just pull that bait out there, because it's just too far from camp to have to drive up there with a four-wheeler when we're doing all the other baits with a side-by-side. You can't get a side-by-side in there. I do not know why they blocked it off. It's public land, public hunting. There's a sign that's always been there that you can't take an off-highway vehicle back in there, which is like a Jeep or a four-wheel drive type vehicle, but it's always been open to ATVs. Now, we had other situations in the past. I've lost baits to areas that they blocked off and made the ATV trails walking trails, and they put signs up and it said these are now walking trails, you can't take an ATV in there. And I've seen several areas where they've done that over the years, but this one here's I'm not sure why they did that. They just blocked it off with no reason that I can tell. So anyway, I'm just going to have to abandon that bait. Unfortunately, it's been a good one. So I got another bait that I haven't been able to get to for 3 days because there was a storm that went through and knocked a lot of trees across the trail, and they're logging back in there. So I'm hoping that when I get there tomorrow, I'm going to go up in there and check it again tomorrow, and there's a lot of trees across the road, so it's going to take a lot of chainsaw work, or hopefully they've opened it up so they could get the logging trucks through. But there must have been some kind of a wind shear that just went through that area and dropped a couple of dozen trees across the road back in there, and big trees too. And we haven't been able to get to that bait for 4 days, so I'm really hoping that we can get into it tomorrow. It's a very good bait also. So that's your update here, and as usual, I'll just roll some trail camera pictures. I know you guys like the pictures and videos of the bears at the baits, and so I'll just roll a few minutes of that for you with some music, and you can just enjoy that, and then I'll talk to you again in a few days.